Imagine this, it's the middle of the night. You're awake, alone in the dark, with only the faint hum of the city outside your window. You can feel it, a subtle pressure against the edges of your mind, something you can't quite grasp, but can't quite shake either. It's as if the very air itself is thick with unspoken truths. You can't escape it, it's like the world is holding its breath, waiting for you to wake up to something you've known but never truly understood. You blink, and suddenly, a thought takes root. What if everything you've ever been told about the mind and reality is a lie? What if the way you see the world is only a fraction of the truth? What if there's an ancient, hidden force within you that you've been ignoring all your life, something that could unlock your fullest potential, but you've been kept in the dark about it? It's a question that lodges itself deep in your chest and refuses to let go. The idea of a secret, something so profound yet so inaccessible, whispers through your subconscious, taunting you with the possibility of a hidden power, a dormant part of your mind you've never learned to tap into. But what if that secret isn't just some metaphysical concept? What if it's a real, tangible thing, something physical, inside you, buried deep within your brain? A small, seemingly insignificant part of your anatomy that holds the key to unlocking your perception of the universe. This isn't about unlocking some mystical energy or reaching for something beyond the stars. No, this is something far more subtle, far more profound. This secret lies within the very architecture of your mind, nestled in a small, unassuming gland, the pineal gland. The pineal gland, that tiny, walnut-sized organ at the center of your brain, has been revered throughout history as the seat of the soul, the gateway to higher consciousness, the very interface between the physical and the spiritual. Ancient cultures have worshipped it, philosophers have speculated on its significance, and mystics have long believed that through it, one could achieve enlightenment, connect with the divine, and even alter the fabric of reality itself. But here's the catch: modern science, for all its advancements, has relegated the pineal gland to the status of an obsolete, underdeveloped relic, something more or less irrelevant in the grand scheme of the body's functions. It's said to produce melatonin, regulating sleep patterns, and yet, that's all most people know about it. But is that all it truly is? Could this unassuming gland, this third eye as it has often been called, hold more power than we've been led to believe? Now imagine this: what if the reason you're stuck in patterns of thought that limit your potential, the reason you feel disconnected from the world around you, is because your pineal gland is calcified, blocked by the very toxins you've been unknowingly consuming all your life? What if your perception, the way you interpret your reality, is being distorted because this small part of you is crippled by decades of neglect? You've heard the phrase decalcifying your pineal gland tossed around, perhaps in the context of spiritual practices, conspiracy theories, or wellness trends. But how much of it is true? Is there a tangible way to unblock this gland and awaken its hidden power? And if so, what does it mean for you, for your life, for the very nature of your existence? How much of your perception is simply a result of this decay, this obstruction of your inner vision? Could decalcifying your pineal gland, even if metaphorical, be the key to seeing the world as it really is? What if this process isn't just about personal enlightenment, but a radical shift in how you see everything, from your own mind to the structures of society around you? Now, ask yourself this. What if the secrets to awakening this part of yourself are much closer, much more accessible than you've been led to believe? What if they have been hidden in plain sight, locked away not by some cosmic conspiracy, but by the very systems designed to keep you asleep, distracted, and compliant? And here's the real question: are you ready to face what happens when you open your eyes? When the world, for the first time, stops being a passive background and becomes something you can shape, understand, and master. This isn't just about decalcifying a gland. It's about decalcifying your mind, your consciousness, your very perception of the universe. But how? The journey to understanding begins with that question. A question that might just unravel everything you thought you knew. What if everything we've been told is not only wrong, but intentionally designed to keep us blind? And if that's true, what happens when you finally see through the veil? To understand the gravity of what you've just glimpsed, this subtle force that may be controlling your perception of reality, you need to dig deeper. It's not enough to simply believe in something as profound as decalcifying the pineal gland. What's far more important is understanding why this concept feels so important, why it strikes a chord within you, and why it resonates with centuries of human thought. If you think about it, the very nature of this secret is one that has been buried for as long as human consciousness has existed. It's no accident that our minds are conditioned to see only what we've been taught to see, to hear only what we're allowed to hear, to believe only what's been fed to us. This pattern is so deeply ingrained in the fabric of human civilization that it has, for most, become invisible. Think back to the ancient philosophers, those rare individuals who dared to question the conventional understanding of reality. Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle were the early intellectuals who sought to pierce through the illusion of the world as they knew it. They wanted to see beyond the surface of things, to unveil the true essence of existence. Socrates famously declared, "The unexamined life is not worth living," urging his followers to look deeper within themselves and the world around them. But the question is, what exactly are we supposed to examine? The world we live in, or the structure of our very minds that interpret it? This is where the concept of the pineal gland intersects with our psychological and philosophical understanding of the world. The notion that the pineal gland is the seat of the soul, first introduced by Descartes, wasn't merely a whimsical idea, it was a recognition of something that transcends the purely material. It hinted at the possibility that there is more to our minds than what meets the eye, that within the architecture of the brain, there exists a hidden gateway to higher consciousness. But here's the tragedy. Over time, humanity's collective attention shifted away from these deeper, existential explorations. Society, shaped by its institutions, developed a system of thinking that prizes materialism, rationality, and the quantifiable. This shift was subtle but pervasive. We traded the mystical and the unknown for the concrete and the observable. In doing so, we buried the very questions that could lead us to the truth, and with them, buried the tools for accessing a higher understanding. Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, was one of the few to challenge this decline. He argued that the psyche is not merely a set of conditioned responses but a vast, dynamic system with layers of unconscious material that profoundly shape our actions, thoughts, and perceptions. According to Jung, the unconscious contains not only personal experiences but also universal, archetypal forces that transcend time and culture. And it is here, in the unconscious mind, that we find the potential to truly see the world as it is, unclouded by the false constructs of the ego or societal conditioning. But, like the pineal gland, Jung's work was largely ignored or misunderstood in a society that clung to a rationalist worldview. His ideas, while revolutionary, were unsettling. To explore the unconscious was to embark on a journey that threatened to unravel the very fabric of what we think we know about ourselves and the world. It's no coincidence that the psychoactive properties of the pineal gland, often connected with altered states of consciousness and mystical experiences, were dismissed in the same intellectual era that favored rationalism and materialism. To challenge the status quo, to propose that there's more to reality than what can be measured, was deemed dangerous. And in the centuries that followed, the very idea of spiritual awakening, or enlightenment, was slowly drowned out by the growing dominance of scientific reductionism. But here's the catch: even as the mind was systematically pruned of its depth, something in you, a part of you that resists this shallowness, remained untouched. Deep within, a primal part of your consciousness still holds the ancient knowledge that there is more to life than what is visible. It waits for you to rediscover it, to challenge the oppressive limits imposed by modern thought. This is where the core of the problem lies. The reason that so many individuals feel disconnected, lost, or powerless is because of this deeply ingrained psychological and philosophical conditioning. We are born into a system that teaches us to dismiss the deeper questions of life, to ignore the intuitive and spiritual dimensions of our experience, and to replace them with material success, productivity, and external validation. This conditioning is not only social, it is deeply psychological. Think about the ways in which you've been taught to structure your life. As a child, you were told what to think, how to behave, what to believe. The systems of education, religion, and media all reinforced this worldview, making it seem as though reality was limited to what could be physically seen, measured, and controlled. The very idea that something as intangible as higher consciousness could influence your life was relegated to the realm of fantasy, superstition, or wishful thinking. And as you grew older, you internalized this framework. You stopped questioning. You began to take things at face value. Your experiences were filtered through a lens of skepticism, and your inner voice, the voice that questions, that wonders, that seeks meaning, became quieter and quieter. But the irony is this very mechanism of control, the gradual numbing of your consciousness to its deeper potential, is what has caused your mind to calcify. To become stuck in patterns that limit your understanding and perception. This subtle psychological decay is what makes it nearly impossible to break free of your conditioning. Just as the pineal gland calcifies with time and toxins, so too does your mind, your consciousness, your ability to perceive reality in its fullest form. And this calcification is dangerous. It keeps you trapped in the illusion that what you see and feel is all there is. That the world is as it seems, and that you are merely a passive participant, subject to the whims of external forces. But what if there is another way? What if the key to breaking free isn't about fighting the world, but instead, it's about unlocking the inner world that you've long since shut off? What if the answer lies within you, and always has? The question remains, how much longer will you allow the veil to remain? How much longer will you let your own mind be held captive by a reality that isn't truly yours? Now that you've come to understand how deeply rooted the problem of a calcified mind is, how it's embedded in the very fabric of our psychological conditioning, it's time to confront the consequences. They're insidious. Silent. They slither beneath the surface of everyday life, subtly shaping your behavior, your perceptions, and even your relationships, without you ever fully realizing it. Picture your life for a moment, as you move through each day. You wake up, go about your routine, interact with others, and return to your thoughts at night. For most, this daily cycle is devoid of introspection. You've been conditioned to fill the emptiness with distractions, with tasks, with noise. The deeper questions you may have once asked: who am I? Why am I here? What's the true nature of this experience? They've long since been replaced with surface-level concerns, the fear of not measuring up, the pressures of success, or the constant need to keep up with the world's demands. But in that noise, in that haze of routine, the hidden consequences of a calcified mind silently take hold. They seep into the very core of your behavior, your mental processes, and your worldview, distorting everything. First, let's talk about perception. When your pineal gland is calcified, or more accurately, when your consciousness is locked into a limited view of reality, you stop seeing things as they are. You see them as they've been conditioned to appear. The world becomes a mere projection, a filtered lens, instead of an open field of possibility. You view yourself as separate from others, as distinct from the vast interconnectedness of the universe. You walk through life like a stranger in your own body, unaware that your very mind is distorting the rich, nuanced world around you. Carl Jung spoke often of the importance of the collective unconscious, the shared, universal experiences and symbols that shape the human condition. But when you can't access this deeper layer of consciousness, When it is blocked by layers of calcification, your reality becomes narrow. Your interactions become shallow. Your worldview is fragmented. And you don't even realize how much you've been cut off from the whole, from the larger cosmic truth. Now consider the effect this has on your emotional state. Your emotions are your body's way of guiding you, informing you about the truth of your situation, but when you're disconnected from the deeper well of consciousness, those signals get muddled. You can't trust yourself. You may find yourself acting out of fear, anger, or a sense of inadequacy because you've been so long disconnected from the wisdom of your higher self. Decisions become reactive instead of intentional. Choices are driven by impulse, not awareness. Look around, this is not an isolated experience. This is the reality of the majority. How many people do you know who live their lives on autopilot, constantly chasing the next achievement, the next distraction, only to find themselves feeling unfulfilled? How many people are bound by emotional reactions they can't control, trapped in cycles of anxiety, depression, or rage because they lack the internal tools to process their deeper selves? You've been taught to ignore the emotional wisdom of your body, to suppress the intuitive nudges, and to rationalize away what's uncomfortable. This isn't just an individual issue, it's societal. The world around you has been shaped by the collective consciousness of people who are equally disconnected from the deeper truths of existence. Think about the structures that govern society, the educational system, the economic system, the media. These institutions thrive on your disconnection. They thrive on keeping you distracted, keeping you small, keeping you focused on the material world. They work tirelessly to ensure that you stay locked into a limited, simplified version of reality. They know that when you begin to question the status quo, when you start to see through the veil, you disrupt the power dynamics that benefit from your blindness. And so, we live in a world where the deeper, spiritual questions, the ones that connect us to the eternal, to the cosmic dance of existence, are silenced in favor of consumerism, achievement, and hollow success. The more we calcify, the less we question, the more we accept a reality that doesn't serve our true potential. But here's where it gets even more troubling. The unconscious consequences of this calcification affect not only how you see the world, but how you act within it. Think about the phenomenon of cognitive biases, those automatic patterns of thought that steer your decisions without you even realizing it. These biases, which include everything from confirmation bias to status quo bias, are like little mental traps that prevent you from seeing the world objectively. Your brain falls into these patterns because it's easier, more comfortable. To think critically, to question the narrative, takes energy. And so, you stay stuck in familiar patterns, seeing only what you want to see, hearing only what you want to hear, and living only as you've been conditioned to live. This is how fear, insecurity, and self-doubt take root. They feed on your cognitive biases, twisting them into self-sustaining loops of negativity. You believe the world is a hostile place, that others are out to get you, that success is a matter of luck and circumstance, when, in reality, these thoughts are simply the result of a mind trapped in a calcified state. The more you resist seeing the world as it truly is, the more entrenched these biases become. Even worse, consider how this calcification manifests in interpersonal relationships. The walls of your own mind, built up over years of being out of touch with the deeper aspects of yourself, create barriers with others. Instead of seeing each person as an interconnected part of the human experience, you see them as separate, as an other. The fear of rejection, the need for validation, the envy of others' success, they all spring from the same source, a mind that no longer recognizes the interconnected nature of life. The more you cling to this fragmented worldview, the more isolated you become. It's a paradox, living in a world designed to connect you, yet feeling more alone than ever. The calcified mind tells you that you're separate, that your worth is tied to external achievements, that your value is dependent on others' approval. The deeper truth, the one that the ancient mystics and philosophers pointed to, is that you are part of a grand, unfolding story. You are not an isolated observer, you are a participant, a co-creator. But you can't see this if your pineal gland is calcified, if your mind is clouded by the fog of disconnection. Now, step back and ask yourself, what have these unseen consequences cost you? How many years of your life have been spent in mental and emotional disarray, unable to access your true potential? How many relationships have you lost? How many opportunities missed? How many moments of joy passed by because you didn't have the clarity to truly see them? How many chances to experience life's deeper magic have you missed because you weren't awake enough to grasp them? These consequences don't just affect you, they affect everything. They affect your community, your society, and the world at large. A disconnected individual is a disconnected society. And that disconnect is exactly how the systems of power, control, and manipulation continue to thrive. It is how the illusion persists. But there is a way out. Now that you understand the true weight of this invisible burden, you're closer than ever to the revelation that could change everything. But first, the question remains. How do you break free from this deep, unconscious pattern that has shaped your life for so long? How do you decalcify not only your pineal gland, but your mind, your emotions, your entire worldview? The path to freedom lies ahead, but to reach it, you must first confront the very forces that have kept you blind. You've felt it, haven't you? That deep sense of being trapped, like you're a prisoner in your own mind, held captive by layers of conditioning that have shaped the way you think, feel, and see the world. The realization that you've been walking through life with a clouded lens is disorienting, but it's also liberating. Once you acknowledge the forces that have kept you in this state, the question shifts from "why is this happening to me?" to "how can I break free?" This is where the journey truly begins. The process of decalcifying your mind, and, by extension, your pineal gland, is not just an abstract, spiritual pursuit. It's a radical act of rebellion against everything that has sought to keep you small, ignorant, and disconnected. It's a rebellion against the systems of thought that have shaped you, that have told you who you are and what you should believe. It's a rebellion against the illusion that the material world is all there is and that you are powerless to change it. So, how do you begin? The first step is recognizing that breaking free requires a shift in perspective and a willingness to see things differently, even if it means challenging everything you've ever believed. This isn't a path for the faint of heart. It requires courage. It demands that you question not just external forces, but also the deep, ingrained beliefs about yourself and your reality. Awareness is the key to the entire process. It's the most powerful tool you have. And it begins with the simple act of paying attention. What if, instead of running from the discomfort or confusion that often arises in moments of introspection, you leaned into it? What if you embraced the dissonance between the world you know and the deeper truth you feel on the edge of understanding? Carl Jung often spoke of the importance of self-awareness in the process of individuation, the journey toward becoming your truest, most complete self. In his work, he emphasized that true awakening comes not from seeking to escape the world, but from facing your own inner darkness, the unconscious patterns and conditioning that have shaped you into someone who believes they're separate from the rest of humanity, separate from nature, separate from the universe. What happens when you stop hiding from the things that scare you, from the aspects of your psyche that make you uncomfortable? You begin to see beyond the veil. And when you begin to see clearly, you unlock the power of the pineal gland. This is not just about unlocking a gland, though. It's about unlocking yourself, your deepest, truest self. Your essence. Your highest potential. But how do you engage this awareness? How do you begin to see the world in a new way? A powerful way to initiate this shift is through detachment. You've spent your life attached to the surface, to the noise, to the distractions of the modern world. The constant barrage of information, opinions, and technology has created an environment where deep thought and reflection are no longer a priority. If you want to truly awaken your mind, you must break free of this cycle. Detach from the distractions. Disconnect from the endless scroll of social media, the noise of the news cycle, and the shallow expectations of those around you. You don't need to be constantly plugged in to access your highest potential. In fact, it's the opposite. You need to unplug, retreat, and create space for your own thoughts and insights to emerge. This doesn't mean abandoning society or retreating to a remote mountain, though, for some, that might be the path. It means being intentional about the space you create in your life for stillness, contemplation, and introspection. It means cultivating moments of silence where you can reconnect with your inner truth. Meditation, for instance, is one of the most powerful ways to decalcify your mind. When you meditate, you allow your thoughts to settle, to quiet down, and in that stillness, you make space for deeper, more meaningful realizations. In meditation, you're not merely trying to clear your mind, you're practicing the art of noticing. You begin to observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment, without attachment, and without the need to control them. Over time, you learn to separate yourself from the unconscious mental chatter that has defined your life. Slowly, the fog lifts, and you begin to see the world as it really is, not as it's been conditioned to appear. This is where the power of the pineal gland comes into play. It is believed that through practices such as meditation, fasting, breath work, and mindful living, you can begin to unblock or decalcify your pineal gland. These practices help to raise your vibrational frequency, so to speak, reconnecting you with your higher self and the vast, interconnected universe. But breaking free doesn't just involve a shift in consciousness, it requires a shift in the physical body as well. The body and mind are deeply interconnected. The state of your mind directly affects the state of your body, and vice versa. For centuries, mystics, shamans, and yogis have known this, understanding that practices such as fasting, physical movement, and breathwork are essential for unlocking higher states of consciousness. One of the most practical ways to begin decalcifying the pineal gland and awakening to your true potential is by cleansing your body. Many of the toxins that contribute to the calcification of the pineal gland are present in the food you eat, the air you breathe, and the products you use every day. You may not even be aware of how these substances are building up in your system over time. The first step is simple: begin to clean up your diet. Avoid fluoride, which is commonly added to tap water and toothpaste. Fluoride has been shown to contribute to the calcification of the pineal gland. Consider adopting a diet rich in organic, whole foods, free from processed chemicals and additives. Choose foods that are high in antioxidants and nutrients that support brain health, like fresh vegetables, fruits, and healthy fats. Fasting, too, is an ancient practice that can help with decalcifying your body and mind. Through intermittent fasting or longer detox periods, you give your digestive system a break and allow your body to focus on cleansing and healing. During these times of fasting, your body can release stored toxins, including those that may have accumulated in the pineal gland. Additionally, breath work can play a powerful role in decalcifying the mind. When you engage in deep, intentional breathing, you increase oxygen flow to the brain, helping to restore balance and activate higher states of awareness. Techniques like the Wim Hof method, which combines controlled breathing with cold exposure, have been shown to improve circulation and stimulate the pineal gland. If you need inspiration, look to history. The true rebels, the ones who have had the courage to awaken and shift consciousness, did not conform to the rules of their societies. They were the ones who dared to see beyond the veil, who fought against the forces that sought to keep them asleep. Think of the mystics like Ralph Waldo Emerson, who spoke of self-reliance and the necessity of going within to access higher truths. Consider the philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche, who who questioned conventional morality and challenged humanity to embrace its fullest potential, to transcend the limits imposed by society. And in more recent history, Aldous Huxley and his exploration of altered states of consciousness in The Doors of Perception challenged the very framework of reality, advocating for the importance of expanding perception through psychedelics. These thinkers, and many others, recognized the importance of breaking free from the shackles of a calcified mind. They understood that true freedom lies not in external change, but in internal awakening. In truth, breaking free from the calcified mind is not merely about unlocking an ancient gland or adopting a set of practices. It's about awakening to your own power, the power to see, feel, and create a reality that is not bound by the constraints of social conditioning. You are not your thoughts. You are not your fears. You are not your past. You are a living, breathing consciousness, capable of experiencing life in all its depth, beauty, and truth. Are you ready to embrace that? To step into the unknown, to break free from the chains that have kept you in a state of numbness? The path is there, waiting for you. And as you take the first step, you will begin to experience the truth that has always been there, just beneath the surface. You will begin to see the world for what it truly is, and see yourself for who you truly are. Now, we stand at the threshold of the most profound revelation, the culmination of everything you've explored up to this point. You've seen the chains that bind you, you've witnessed the consequences of a mind clouded by disconnection and calcification, and you've uncovered the tools and practices needed to break free. But this final realization will change everything. It is the revelation that lies beneath all the spiritual teachings, beneath the psychology, beneath the history of rebellion, and beyond all the physical practices. What if I told you that the very process you've been undergoing, the journey to decalcify your pineal gland, to awaken your mind and free yourself from the prison of ignorance, has been leading you toward one singular truth, one insight that transcends everything? That truth is this: you are not separate. You are the universe itself. This is the ultimate realization. This is the awakening that your pineal gland has been waiting for. This is the key to everything you've been seeking, to everything you've been striving for. It's a concept so simple, yet so mind-bending, that it defies all the structures you've been taught to believe in. The separation you feel, the division between you and others, between you and nature, between you and the universe, is a construct. It is a lie woven so deeply into the fabric of your reality that you cannot even begin to fathom the scope of its influence until you step beyond it. But think about this: every experience you've ever had, every moment of joy and suffering, every thought, every feeling, every act of creation, has been part of a vast, interconnected web. When you disconnect from the truth of your pineal gland, when you calcify that inner vision, you trap yourself in the illusion of separateness. You begin to identify with your individual self, your ego, your isolated thoughts, and you forget that you are part of a much larger whole. The ancient mystics, philosophers, and sages have all pointed toward this truth. The oneness. Whether it was Rumi describing the unity of the universe, Buddha teaching the interconnectedness of all beings, or Einstein contemplating the interrelatedness of the cosmos, the message has always been clear: there is no division. There is only unity. The boundaries we perceive between ourselves and the world around us are, in fact, illusions. The pineal gland, the third eye, is the organ that has the potential to pierce through this illusion, to help you see the unity in all things, to help you access that higher consciousness where you no longer view yourself as a separate individual but as part of the whole. It is the key to realizing that you are, in essence, the observer and the observed. You are both the experience and the experiencer. In this state, you transcend the limitations of ego and perceive the world in its purest, most fluid form, without distortion, without separation. You no longer live as a passive participant in life, you live as an active creator. In this moment of realization, everything shifts. the weight of the world that you've carried on your shoulders begins to dissolve. The fears that once gripped you, the anxieties that held you back, the limitations that seemed to define your existence, they begin to fade into the background. You see the absurdity of them. They no longer matter because you are no longer bound by them. You recognize that life is not something happening to you, a life is something you are actively participating in. The universe is not some cold, indifferent machine, it is a living, breathing entity that you are a part of, and through your awareness, you shape it. Every thought you think, every action you take, reverberates across the fabric of existence, rippling out to affect everything. The collective consciousness that we all share is not a vague or abstract concept, it is real. And when you awaken to it, when you see through the veil, you realize that all the experiences you've had, all the struggles you've faced, have been part of the process of remembering who you truly are. This is where the deepest beauty of the process lies, in the remembering. Your pineal gland, through its deep connection to the higher aspects of consciousness, serves as the gateway to this remembering. It is the part of you that holds the key to your true nature. When you begin to decalcify it, you unlock the door to your own divinity. You stop thinking of yourself as a mere human, a small, insignificant being in a vast universe. You realize that you are both the creator and the created, the universe and the individual, the eternal and the fleeting. And this revelation doesn't just change your internal reality, it changes how you interact with the world. When you truly understand that you are not separate from the world, from others, or from the universe, you act with a new sense of purpose. You act with intention. You understand that your thoughts, actions, and decisions are powerful. They ripple outward, touching lives, influencing outcomes, and creating ripples across time and space. This awareness brings you a deep sense of responsibility, not because you must do something with this realization, but because you see that everything you do, every choice you make, has meaning. Every breath, every movement, every moment is a reflection of your connection to the cosmos. And with this awareness, you begin to experience the timeless nature of your being. The limitations of time and space dissolve. You start to realize that all that exists is the present moment, the now, and that you, in this moment, are the embodiment of everything that has come before you and everything that will come after you. You begin to see that time is not linear, but cyclical, and that you are part of an eternal flow. You are not confined to the small, narrow space of your physical existence. You are infinite. This realization, this deepest truth, is where true freedom lies. It is the freedom from fear, the freedom from doubt, the freedom from the false constraints that society, your conditioning, and your own limited beliefs have imposed upon you. You are free to create, free to experience, free to be. Now, here is the invitation, take this truth with you. Do not simply acknowledge it as an abstract idea or a fleeting thought. Let it be the very foundation upon which you build the rest of your life. Let it be the lens through which you view the world. Live as if you are not separate from the cosmos, not separate from each person you meet, not separate from the vast, mysterious force that moves through everything. As you begin to live from this understanding, your life will transform. Your relationships will deepen. Your purpose will become clearer. You will experience moments of connection so profound that you will no longer be able to deny the oneness of all things. And as you continue down this path, you will find that the universe itself begins to reveal its secrets to you, not as an external entity to be feared, but as a mirror reflecting your own truth back at you. In the end, you are the universe waking up to itself. You are the dreamer and the dream, the creator and the creation. And as you step fully into this realization, you will discover that you are not just decalcifying your pineal gland. You are decalcifying the very nature of reality itself. And so, you stand at the edge of a profound transformation. What will you choose? Will you continue living in the illusion, in the fog of a calcified mind? Or will you take the leap, break free from the chains, and awaken to the deepest truth of your existence? The answer is yours.